Our top story today is about one of India's most inspiring entrepreneurs, inspiring philanthropists. We are, of course, talking about Azim Premji, the chairman of Wipro, and we're really going to try and trace his journey and also see what startups, what entrepreneurs can learn from him, and who better than to help us, in that quest than Sudhir Sethi, who is the founder of IDG Ventures, one of India's most prominent venture capital firms. But in an earlier avatar, he also had a very long stint at Wipro, spent over a decade there and worked very closely with Azim Premji. Sudhir Sethi, thank you so much for joining us on ET Now Startup Central. I want to start by asking you, you worked in Wipro in the early years and, during the hyper-growth phase that IT was beginning to see post-liberalization. Take us through your own memories of Azim Premji, the leadership lessons really that he holds.
So, I joined in '86, and I think and I joined from HCL, and the first big thing which I noticed is the session which Mr. Premji took on the belief and value systems of Wipro. The code of conduct which we as professionals would be adopting, governance, ethics. And I've seen him do that during my 12 years. Every year he addresses new people. That was very powerful. And I must add that good habits, get into you. And he was a role model. He was practicing those value systems himself. So I think the biggest thing is to build a very large organization on value systems. And by the way, when I started the venture fund in 2006, within the first 6 months, we actually did the same thing. We all sat down around a table and said, what kind of firm will we build? What should be our culture? What will be our value systems, code of conduct, governance, and ethics? So I think there's a big learning there overall. I think the second thing which stands out during those 12 years is the amount of freedom which we as professionals, I joined as a mid-level professional and was senior when I left. We all had enormous freedom in terms of execution. We had goals, we agreed on goals, but we had freedom to execute. We had freedom to innovate. It's very interesting that in the first, I would say, 6 to 7 years of my venture capital time frame, in South India, the majority of the entrepreneurs used to actually come from Wipro. So Wipro today has, at last count which I did in May, I think, of this year, was Wipro today has generated over 600 entrepreneurs and over 450 companies run by these entrepreneurs. That is a huge recognition of the fact that innovation was the name of the game as far as Wipro was concerned when we were working there. In fact, these 600 entrepreneurs and 450 companies have raised over $1.5 billion. The market cap today collectively is about $4 billion. That's something which is an enormous contribution to the Indian ecosystem.
Sudhir, this is Krishna coming to you from ET Now's Mumbai studios. We are, of course, discussing Mr. Premji here on ET Now Startup Central. So I wanted to ask you if there are 2 or 3 things that startups can imbibe from Azim Premji. What exactly would they be? Management lessons, value systems, or for that matter, even leadership lessons?
Value systems, culture, the sense of professionalism, the sense of belonging of every employee to the firm. I think the other thing is the independence with which execution was done. That was very important. Leading by himself as a role model, Azim Premji led everything as a role model. Whether you call it value systems or beliefs or hard work, caring for the team. And I can relate to you that in one of the instances, annual appraisals used to take place, and in one of the appraisals I was asked to meet Mr. Premji that, look, appraisal is due, so I was like expecting 10 a.m. in the morning, and suddenly I get a call that, and we were in a place outside Bangalore, and Mr. Premji is going for a walk at 6 o'clock in the morning, and he says, why don't you join me for the next 45 minutes? And we discussed my appraisal for the next 45 minutes as such. So that's very interesting, very hardworking. The care part comes out, and I think Azim Premji has a very hard demeanor, but he's a really caring guy. I remember many years ago, there was an aircraft crash which took place in Bangalore. And me and some of my colleagues were supposed to be on that. It's a Bombay-Bangalore flight. In fact, the majority of the people, died on that flight. And so I'm sitting in the Wipro Bombay office, and Mr. Premji calls, and somebody says, hey, there's a call from, Mr. Premji. I said, I took the call, and he says, you were supposed to be on the flight. I said, no, I changed my plans. Oh, good. I don't know if you know, but the flight has crashed. And so the chairman of a company, and at that time the company must have been $400-500 million, calling up all the people who were supposed to be on the flight, and in his office informing. At that time we didn't have phones, so suddenly in the next couple of hours my wife knew that I was not on the flight. That's something very unique.
Interesting insights there, Sudhir, that, under the tough demeanor, he's actually a very caring person. And I guess that also shows, when it comes to his philanthropy initiatives, particularly the giving pledge that he signed a few years back. If you have to really transmit philanthropy at scale to some of these new age startups, entrepreneurs, how would you really go about doing it? I mean, Premji likes to say that, he's not thrilled by his wealth. He sees it as a fiduciary responsibility. But, that could be a very personal feeling. So how do you really transmit these values at scale to entrepreneurs?
So I think So look at what Azim Premji has done over the last many years. I think everything he has done, he has taken to a leadership level, number one. Number two, and that includes philanthropy, by the way. So there are very few people from India who have built enormous scale. I do believe that whether it is entrepreneurs or whether it is professionals, in our own way, everybody is contributing to philanthropy. Small or big is not the issue. What he has done is taken philanthropy to a different scale, which is unheard of in India. Second, he has institutionalized philanthropy. And third, what he has done is he has given it a constant source of funds. Those three are very big learning factors for entrepreneurs and for businesses in the future to just make sure you copy nicely.
All right, Sudhir, tell us what, according to you, is the lasting legacy of Mr. Azim Premji? Is it IT, or is it FMCG, or is it his philanthropy initiatives?
I think it's all of them. Wipro is today known as a leader in every single business, including philanthropy, including the private equity funds, which are functioning under the Wipro brand name or the Premji Invest brand name. To give you an example, Premji Invest is perhaps today India's first global private equity fund. They have operations in India, they have operations in China, they have operations in the US. That's not a mean achievement as such. So I think Azim Premji and Wipro stand for leadership. Yes, are they going through ups and downs? I think yes. Will they come out of it? I'm convinced they'll come out of it. Will they go through cycles again, like many other corporations? I mean, IBM has gone through its ups and downs. So will Wipro. So will Infosys. So I'm not too worried about that. I think the crux of the thing is, will the new leadership take it to greater heights? Knowing at least the culture when I was there, I have big faith in Wipro continuing as a leadership organization in the world.
Finally, Mr. Sethi, before we let you go, please tell us about your own favorite anecdote when it comes to Azim Premji. I'm sure a lot of ex-Wipro employees, have their own versions. You've given us that aircraft one, but apart from that, if there's any anecdote that you want to share.
I think Azim Premji is one of the biggest learners I have ever seen in my life. At one time, we were engaging with Dr. C.K. Prahlad and Dr. Jagdish Shet. And the hunger for learning can be seen, and one of them was to come on the board of directors of Wipro. I think Dr. Jagdish Shet came on the board of directors of Wipro. And what we saw was Azim Premji, a very humble person, going to the airport, picking up Dr. Jagdish Shet or Dr. C.K. Prahlad, and during the car starting his meeting. Right? That to me speaks volume of not only a very hardworking person, but person who values time, the right ethics. And I think all of us learned from that. At the end of the day, there is a very, very knowledgeable global person called Dr. Jagdish Seth coming into India. And the message to me as a youngster in Wipro at that time was, don't ever waste a second. Just go and get whatever knowledge he has. And I think that has played well.
All right, Sudhir, we might have to let it go at that. Mr. Sudhir Sethi, founder chairman of IDG Ventures, thank you so much for taking time out to be with us here on 18 Hours Startup Central to throw light on Mr. Azim Premji's legacy. Thank you so much.
Find us on Facebook at facebook.com/ETNow and don't forget to click the like button. You can also follow us on Twitter at ETNowLive. To stay updated with all our programming, hit the subscribe button on our YouTube channel by logging on to youtube.com/user/ETNow.